And we're going to turn that off, and it is 6 o'clock. Now I got it. Now I fixed it. See?
Yep.
It's 6 o'clock on a Wednesday night. It is Real Unfiltered Talk. I am James Bryant, right alongside my main man, two-time world champion, Bassmasters Classic champion, FLW world champion, kind of a nice guy, Mr. Dion Hibden. Dion, how you doing tonight?
Depend on the day.
Depending on the day.
Depend on the day. Today's been a good day. I feel good.
How was your week?
It's all right. Everything's been going good.
All right. You guys all here okay?
Been making fishing tackle, stuff like that. Working on tackle.
That's boring as hell.
I know, but it's been a little hot.
Thank you very, very much for everyone here tonight. This is probably one of the biggest turnouts we've had tonight.
Absolutely. Good crowd.
There's like a whole 4 people here.
Yeah.
It's not good. No, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We broke the dozen.
A dozen.
We got a
Nice.
dozen. That's all good.
It's
So
good.
celebrate that and have a drink. It's all good.
That's right.
So how was your week? Did you do anything cool?
Nope, not really. No, I really haven't. I've been working on fishing tackle and like I say, this little break in the weather is making me want to go fishing now. So I'm gonna start back up fishing.
That's boring.
And it's getting more into the time of the year that I like. So
The thing is, we got to talking about fishing, who's catching before the show. We already got it all handled. We don't have anything to talk about tonight.
yeah, I know these guys sucked
guys
it
are
all
like-
out of us before we started.
It's like they get all excited because, hey, Dion Hibden's in the house. We better go milk him
That's
for everything
right.
he's got before we get there. And then it's like
That's right.
nothing else to talk about.
We'll get the viewers
Right,
in there,
Lonnie?
too.
No, I'm totally kidding.
Yeah.
Totally kidding. So let's talk about Lake of the Ozarks here in Central Missouri. What's going on out there, D?
Oh well, like I say, it had been kind of terrible there for about 2 weeks. I mean, it was hard. Wasn't catching them very good. The fish suspended really bad there for a while, and when I say that, just a lot of fish. You turn on your locator and you look at them, and they're 10 foot above a pile of brush. 20 foot deep. And over the top of a brush pile that's on the bottom, they're 10 foot deep standing there.
You keep talking. I'm gonna go turn off the radio. Hold
But
on.
they actually got back on the bottom a little bit this weekend. They've started catching them a little bit better again. And when I say that, the right guys are catching them again. The guys who put in a lot of their own brush, stuff like that, they're kind of dominating things. So it's coming back. I don't know why they took that time that they didn't want to stand down in that stuff. They stood over it, but now they're kind of getting back where they need to be.
A couple weeks ago, those fish were really shallow.
Yep.
Really
Yep.
shallow. And we see when we have these 80, 85 degree water temperature, and normally people think that those fish should be deeper and in cooler water, but in a sense they kind of move back, and it's all about chasing the bait. Right?
Yeah, it's where
Finding
the
the
food's
shad.
at. Yeah, finding the food, getting around the shad. As you progress up the lake, of course, everything's going to be a little shallower. Everything's going to move gradually shallower. Like I say, Lawson won during the day on Saturday. Had 19 pounds, and he caught them actually in that 8 to 10 foot deep brush, but he was up the river on the upper end of the lake, which translated to the lower end of the lake. That's the 20 footers. That's deep for up the lake, and caught most of them on a worm, most of them on a Bojangles worm. Did catch one big one on a jig. He looked in, and as he was cruising in between 2 piles of brush on boat docks, and seen a little bluegill bed, and there was a little bush hanging down in the middle of the bluegill bed, and he slung up under it and caught a big one out of that. And that always happens in the summer.
So for those in the crowd that were earlier, you did not say bluegill bed. You said a brim bed.
Brim bed, bluegill bed.
But you gotta understand, a lot of our viewers don't understand what a brim is, because
Well,
that's a southern term.
Yeah, it is.
Brim is another word for bluegill, panfish.
But those little tiny donuts, little tiny donuts, and a cluster of them that's the size of a dinner table.
I got to shut you down here because you're saying donuts. Nobody has any idea what you're talking about.
Little tiny beds,
So
little spawning beds.
if you're out there and you're fishing along, and you've got side imagery or down imagery or any kind of imagery, or if you have the naked eye or a good pair of
Yes.
glasses, what you do is you go up to the bank and you look and you'll see. And we all talk about bass fishing and we talk about spawning beds, which a bass will go in fan out an area. It's a big circle. Then he gets on, he spawns, and we talk about sight fishing. We talk about all these things. Well, guess what, everybody? Every other fish does it too. So in the hot weather and in the summer, we're getting into brim fishing. Brim is bluegill,
sunfish,
shell cracker, sunfish, green sunfish,
Yep.
all those things, and they make much smaller nests. But the thing is, as I'm going to correct you on it because you were like being too general tonight.
Oh, okay.
So when a brim makes a nest, they make like 20 or 30 in one spot. So instead of one bass nest, you see one big circle, you'll see like 10 or 15 little circles. And so they're all getting there making their nest, and they do it all together in one spot.
Looks like a giant wiffle ball on the bottom of the lake.
There you go.
I mean, they're just
there you go.
little holes everywhere down there.
Sometimes you got to paint the better picture.
Yeah.
Now, one of the best brim fishing lakes I feel in the country is Kentucky Lake.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's phenomenal. And I was fortunate enough to go out with a guy, and I think we talked about it before. When you're going down and looking at a bank and you see a bunch of brim nests, if you see one that's less brim nest, but they're a little bit bigger, guess what that means?
Bigger.
They're bigger fish. Yeah. So there's your little piece of information for the day. So you can go out and find a bunch of brims, and you can catch little bitty bluegill everywhere, and it's really easy to do when they're on there, just like any other spawn.
It's not to say it's a great way to go catch a bunch of bass right now. It's not, because you're not going to have that everywhere. The whole lake's not going to be that way. But really, every time the moon kind of gets big in the summer, you're going to have a few of those bluegill go to the bank. They just pull up there and they build some beds and they do it. To say that this is a little bit late for it, I've seen them. I've seen them do it all summer long.
Right.
It just seems like when the moon gets right and everything, there's little patches of them here, there, and around. And if you are so fortunate enough to see one of those as you're fishing down the bank, a lot of times there'll only be one, but it'll be a big one. That's a bluegill eater. So a lot of times it'll be a dominant bass in that area will pull in there with those bluegill, and he just stands around. Like there was a tree that had fell in with those bluegill beds, and he pitched into the tree, and that's where he caught the fish. But like I say, to say that he could have went and fished dirt shallow all day long and caught a bunch of those, that would be hard to do, because he said he fished all day long and found 2 patches of bluegill, and that was it. And somebody else had probably already plucked the other good one off of the other one. So it's not a for sure thing, because as it gets later in the year, there's less bluegill beds. There's less of them. They're kind of getting done.
You can here in a minute. As I'm the guy that you spurt out all this massive information, I'm the guy that has to back you up and dumb you down a little bit. Okay.
I'm ready.
So the 2 terms that you said in this last paragraph or 2 was dominant fish and a tree over a brim nest. That's what caught me. So we've talked about it before, but I want everybody that's watching the show or listening to it here on Apple, when you talk about a dominant fish, that is going to be
in Lake of the Ozarks, a dominant fish is a 5-pounder.
It's the biggest fish in the group.
It's the bigger fish in the area.
If you believe, if you're a deer hunter and there's that big buck that runs all the other smaller bucks off, that same rule applies in bass fishing. The bigger bass rules the roost.
Yeah, it's a pecking order.
If you guys have never watched the show before, thanks for tuning in, by the way, and follow us on YouTube and all of our other platforms, but YouTube's a big one. The second thing you said was they found fish that had been on a tree fall.
Yeah.
So if you've never watched the show in the past, we've always said that a bass likes to have something over his head. So if you get like the perfect storm, you get a natural tree fall, which you and I have talked about it a bunch, and I'm going to put my 2 cents in here real quick. A green tree that falls is the most natural cover that falls into the water that fish will instantly go to. It's better than something you sink in the ground.
Yep.
Because I guess if you want to, God has a plan. A tree falls in the water, fish naturally go to it because it's a storm or wind or any of those kind of things. It's a very natural thing that fish will relate to quickly. Correct?
Yep.
So if you're in an area where that tree magically falls and it's a dominant fish area, plus you've got a brim nest, you got to really take your hats off to the kid for finding that.
It's not an accident. He's seen that happen many times in his lifetime. And when I say that, this time of the year it's so hot. We've had a lot of hot weather. We've just got a little cool snap kind of coming in, so there'll be more fish start moving shallower. But when it's dead hot like this, you need a little bit of dense shade. Also, a good shadow right on the bank. It doesn't have to be 6 inches deep, as long as it's a temperature change to that fish. If she can pull in there and get in a really good dark spot, that's as good as standing out there in 10 foot of water. And those bluegill sometimes suck them to the bank. A big bass is overall pretty lazy. And when I say that, they're not like the 3-pounders and stuff like that will just run and eat whatever they come across and stuff like that. The bigger a bass gets, it's just like my big white ass sitting here. I'm a professional eater. I know how to do it, okay? There's some heavyweights in the crowd, so they know. And you look at the skinny runts out. You look at the skinny runts out there. Those guys are not great at what they do. They're not good eaters.
No, we're the gazelles, man.
I am a great eater, and so therefore, I'm going to eat what I want. Well, there's a lot of bass that they prefer bluegill.
This fixing to get deep right now.
A bluegill is a great meal for a bass because it's a little bigger, a little hardier. It's not just the same old shad that she's been eating day after day after day out there in the open. That's the thing about where we live. We have all kinds of food. We have every kind of food that a bass could imagine, and you have some. And I'm a firm believer that you have some that don't like shad, and you have some that like bluegill. Here in the next 3 weeks to a year, those bluegill eating mothers are coming into play, and it's nothing more than that's a big bass. A lot of times, the ones that like them bluegill, that's a bigger bass. I don't skip a jig up under them boat docks by accident. Okay, it's imitating a bluegill 99% of the time. It's not imitating a crawdad. Normally a jig would imitate a crawdad. In this time of the year, it's not. It's a bluegill, and my baits are according. My jig that I skip in there looks more like a bluegill. It acts more like a bluegill with what I do with it. And like I say, Lawson probably was throwing his 10-inch worm down the bank, catching them out of that slightly deeper brush, and he looked up there and there's that overhanging tree. He may have had to get down and get a jig out of the box, pull it out. That's the ultimate cast right there, and it worked. He got lucky and caught a big one, 5-pounder, 590. So, and that's the stuff that makes a difference. He could have very easily, I'm not going to scoot over there and do that. Well, he grew up with Guido Hibden as a grandpa. He knows better than to miss one like that. He's not going to let one like that get by him. And he's kind of a greedy little bastard too. He likes taking everybody's money. I don't know if anybody's noticed that or not, but oh yeah, that kid does not like losing.
You're amped up tonight.
Oh, I'm excited.
You're juiced.
Hell yeah, I'm ready to go fishing again. I haven't been. I'm strictly telling you what I know. Off of what other people have told me. I haven't been for like 2 weeks.
So can we rewind a little bit over the fat guy, skinny guy thing?
You can.
And break down that analogy a little bit further?
It does not scare me.
Because, see, I've got a different take on this thing.
The bigger a bass gets, the easier he makes his meals. Okay? He hides better. 99% of the time when you catch a giant bass, guess what? If you think about it, that was the perfect hiding spot. Where you caught him from was the best hiding spot in the area where you were fishing. Okay? You take that one out of there. You caught him. Oh my gosh, I got a 6-pounder in the boat. You come back 2 hours later, guess what? The next biggest one in that area is going to take that spot because it's the perfect spot, And I've always been a believer in that. You ask guys like my dad, Denny Brower, guys who weighed in lots of big bass. That's what they fish for. They fished for big fish. And you ask them, did you catch them all over the lake? Yeah, I did. I caught them all over the lake. And then when you get them to really settle down and talk to you, but I did catch 2 out of 1 tree. Now, they might have did that 4 hours apart, but they went back, and it's just a good hiding spot to one is a good hiding spot to the next one that comes down the bank, and you got to keep that in mind. There's nobody sitting in this crowd that hasn't caught more than one big bass off the same piece of cover. That's just the way it is.
Magic dock.
That's right, the magic dock.
We all have it.
We all got
one.
one. You know, I've got stuff out there that I catch a big one off of no matter when I go there, and you know, you just got to make sure you don't go there until you got money on the line. You know,
that's a good point.
You've got a spot where you catch 11 pounds at the drop of a hat.
Shut up.
You know what? I have had many. Now I'm going to give you something here. I've had many tournaments where I would have give just about anything to have had one more 2-pounder, and you know, because
I got the spot.
So to have a spot that you know you can weigh in 11 pounds, that's awesome.
But here's the thing, and it's funny, but you know the spot.
Absolutely.
I mean, you absolutely know every inch of that spot just like I do. And the crazy part is there is not another place like it on the damn lake that I can find.
Nope, not
a single spot.
You better quit talking about it or you're going to give it up.
I won't give it up.
Yeah, you're going to.
I will not give it up. And you know what?
Everybody in this crowd is thinking,
you know,
wait a minute, where's that? You know.
But here's the thing. There are guys, and we fish in a monthly bass club, and there are 50 boats on average, 40 to 50 boats, and there's about 5 or 6 guys that know that spot as well.
Sure.
So in tournament fishing, it always becomes is who's going to get there first, and when are they going to bite? So, Mr. Pro, when do the bass bite the best?
Well,
when you fish in a tournament, let's say it's a 6-3, okay? You know, and we're in the summer, we're in August, we're getting ready to go in a tournament. Odds are morning bite's going to be the best.
This time of the year, you know, the fish are roaming good because they feed a lot at night too.
That's right.
So the first crack out of the box,
that
first hour or so,
is going to be the best one.
Is normally pretty consistent. You know, they're going to be chewing a little bit.
That's right.
Right off the get-go in the morning. So I fish pretty loose right then. I go to my best spot normally, and I give it a try, you know. But the thing of it is, I don't catch the same bass. I don't chase the same bass all day long.
That's cool.
I chase the easy ones for a little bit in the morning.
Okay, so with that being said, let me butt in. So let's pretend you took the place of Dad. All right, so we're sitting there at takeoff, and I'm like, all right, Dion, here's the deal. You know, it's morning. It's all good. Do you want to run to the magic spot and catch 11 right off the bat and then go out and find the kicker? Or do we leave it and hope that nobody hits it as hard as we hope to and we'll pick it up later? How would you answer that to me? Knowing the spot that I'm talking about.
I would go there first.
First, right?
I mean, I would go there first because it don't matter what you're fishing for, how much money, what kind of tournament.
You go and get your limit.
You feel a whole lot better if you got 5 swimming in a live well.
That's right.
You know, I've fished all over the planet, and I have been in tournaments where I thought, well, I only need to catch 5 of these. And I have went and fished for those, you know, fish for just 5 bites. But you just feel more at ease if you go and get 5 in the boat. You get 5 in the boat, you got nothing to be mad about, you know, or sad about. On Lake of the Ozarks, it's a little bit different situation for me. When I went to your spot with you, took your dad's spot, go to your spot, catch 11 pounds, or 1180, something like that. That's about as big as they get there.
12, 20, whatever.
You know, about 2.5 pounders.
Yeah.
When I'm done with that, though.
15.5-inch fish.
Yes.
Yes.
Good 15-inch keepers.
Yes.
But when I'm done with that, I don't mind that the best bite window is done. Okay? That doesn't bother me that, okay, the morning bite is kind of over with because the rest of my day is going to be spent catching resident bass. Okay? Now, there's a difference between feeders, eaters, and residents. Okay?
Feeders and residents. All right.
Resident bass.
I had to process it. Go ahead.
Resident bass is a bass that never leaves a specific piece of cover. That's where he lives. If you didn't catch him, it's because he didn't bite. But he's there.
Right.
I fish a lot of those spots in the summertime as the day wears on. And on up into the fall, clean up into October. But the thing of that is, there's maybe not quite as many of those, and they're not as aggressive. But I do know enough of those little spots where I always catch a big one right there. And so I'll run to those spots and fish it really, really hard. And then, might only fish a spot the size of this table. And then I'm done with it. I might as well move on because I got no faith anywhere else. But if I fish 50 of those in a day's time, guess what? I'm going to show up at 2 or 3 of them, and the right one's going to be there, and I'm going to fool him. I'm going to make him bite. And that's what makes for a big day. And I always use the same situation.
See you later.
I always use the same situation with when you catch a dominant bass, use that. I mean, you use your brain and use that. Was he 2 foot deep? Was he 3 foot deep? Was he 5 foot deep in a piece of brush? Was he on a rocky bank? Was he on a mud bank? Was he in the back end of a cove? Was he out? There's only one. The main thing when you do get lucky and finally get that one big one, use it. Use it wisely. Make sure that every big bass in that area is going to be on something real similar to what you just caught that one. Because they know, they're professionals. The older they get, the bigger they get. They know exactly what they want and what they need. And like I say, would I have run the bank with Lawson and chased down more bluegill beds? Probably, because I told you he found 2. Got a 590 off one and a 490 off the other one.
Yep.
So it worked. And he ends up with 19 pounds. Second place was 18 pounds. Third place was 18 pounds. Then it went to 16. Well, if you take away those 2 big ones, he's got 16 with everybody else. So, he used his head and he did what he had to do. Instead of going out there and catching 33 pounders, and he actually said, I think I could have. He said, it was crazy. He said, we caught a bunch of fish on a worm. But he said, once I caught that one big one, I thought, okay, that's the right one. Now I need to use that. And he did. Searched around the rest of the day, caught keepers as he went along, but he was still looking for that one perfect little sweet spot, and caught one more good one. And that's what made the difference.
That's the question, though, that all these people are here tonight and we don't have an answer for is, how do you find the resident bass? From a guy that catches 11 pounds a week, how do I find the resident bass?
Most of the time when you have a spot that holds a good one, it's going to have a good access to wind.
Right.
You don't want to be in a spot that can't get any wind, especially this time of the year, because it gets too hot. The water temperature gets too hot,
right.
And then you have to kind of rely on that shade. So I fish open areas, places where the wind can hit with the dominant wind. The west wind or a south wind, you got to make sure it's kind of something that can hit. The wind can blow in because that keeps the food blowed in there.
Hey,
that keeps the shad blowed into that area.
Do you believe in the wind poem?
The what?
The wind poem.
Oh, out of the east?
Yeah. Fish bite the least.
I think
wind
fish
blows
bite
in
the least
west,
out of the
fish
east
bite
because
the best.
most of the east-facing banks suck.
Yeah. I'm asking.
And when I say that, you think about that next time you're out there looking around.
You guys ever heard that poem? When the fish blow in the south, the wind blows the bass bite in the mouth.
There's very few easterly banks that the wind can blow in out of the east. So really are good-looking banks and decent banks.
Just asking.
And I'm not saying they're really crappy because I do believe in the east wind sucks. So it makes me not even look over there, a lot of the time. But there's no place that I don't feel like you can catch a bass. Don't get me wrong. The east wind that's kind of a bunch of horse hockey too, for the most part.
Since we're on that subject, because we're like all in the weeds right now, but have you heard fishermen say the fish weren't biting because they were bluebird skies? Have you heard that one?
I personally...
Oh, we've heard that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is that even real?
That's for guys that can't cast. I don't want to disillusion any of you, but that's for guys that can't skip. Simple as that. Because
got to get them in the shade.
It's
for you, Donnie.
Those bright blue days, those are the days that those are the days that my family really dominates things. And it's nothing more than we seek out those little shady spots. Most of the time, a place where a fish lives, it's going to have the wind can blow into. You can also need a little bit deep water, not far. It kind of, and I don't necessarily mean main lake, but it'll be like a channel type bank in a creek. Okay, you want that deep water fairly close. He can be in 6 inches, but he likes to know that deep water's right there. All I got to do is turn around and slip out in 5 foot of water, because I think they do that a lot. I think they move from me to the guys out here in front of us. I think they move 10 foot.
Oh, so that's about 10 feet.
I don't think they move a quarter of a mile. I don't think they move 100 yards in their lifetime. I think in their lifetime, they might move 75 yards from where they're born most of the time. I believe that. And when I say that, think about that just a little bit. They couldn't all go in these creeks and spawn. There'd be no way. There's too many of them, They spawn on the main lake a lot of times. They spawn in little tiny areas on the main lake, little flat pockets, stuff like that. Just a little flatter area, But, like I say, I don't think they move a whole lot. And so a big bass likes to have a little bit of that deep water right there. Where Lawson caught the one off the brim bed, at the outside of his boat, where he skipped into, was 6 inches deep. Mm-hmm. On this side of his boat, it's 12 foot deep. It's on a channel bank. It's close to a channel bank. But here's a little flat spot. Bluegill pulled up there to spawn. It's perfect. It's close. Everything's tight right there. And it's a fairly open cove. That cove, if you think about where it's at, it's fairly open. And when the wind blows out of the west or the south, blows right straight into it.
Okay.
So it can push the shad in it at any given minute. Shad are the key, for the most part. They follow them around. This time of the year, that's their main forage, a lot of them. But that big bass, every now and then, it's going to eat a big old bluegill. Big bluegill. And the neat thing about bluegill is they stand in the same stuff. They stand around the same trees. They stand around the same boat docks. And, I'm sure that a bluegill is very surprised when the 5-pounder he's been living with for 5 years just all of a sudden says,
eating.
They just eat me, Okay, it's over. It happens.
All right, get you a drink. Take a breath. You've been
you're
on fire. You're on fire. So
I've been thinking all day long about
I can tell. It's like I want to do something totally different tonight, and it's like it's not even working right now. So damn, dude.
Okay, so whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, so what we didn't talk about, and I'm looking at some of the comments on live feeds right now. So one of the things we need to talk about, we haven't discussed crawdads. We've been talking about bluegills and bluegill spawns in the summer. So one of the questions is the crawdad bite still viable versus the bluegill? Number one. And number two, those that don't understand the color patterns of a jig, how do you differentiate a crawdad jig from a bluegill jig? You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Execute.
Crawfish this time of the year are the reason they're not as big a deal, and when I say not as big a deal, is because they're hiding more. They're burrowed up. They get under rocks. They're the summertime is a lot like the wintertime. They're back seeking the shade and the cool, and so they burrow down into the mud a lot of times. When the water goes down really fast, we don't have it here because you can't see it. But on mud banks and stuff like that, you'll see them little tiny holes in them banks. And you only see it here is when the water goes down in the summertime. You can actually see those little tiny holes. Well, that's a crawdad. The crawdad has burrowed into that. But when we go to like tidal water and stuff like that, where you can actually see it, the water goes up 3 feet and down 3 feet.
We talked about it last week too.
Yeah, you can see it. It's right there. This time of the year, the crawfish are not a huge forage to that bass because they spend very little time in the open. They're spending more time hiding under rocks, in the mud, stuff like that. So, but all in the same respects, and I've said it a million times on the podcast, I think it's his favorite food. So if he sees a crawdad.
Yeah.
If he sees a crawdad, he's going to eat it. All right. So that's why jig fishermen are always going to be kind of on it. It's going to be happening a little bit. But I think at this time of the season, you have to think about what's the most prolific food source he has, and in the shady spots, a lot of times it's bluegill. Out in the open, it's shad. And my baits are adjusted accordingly. If I'm fishing on the outsides of docks, I'm throwing shad oriented, food.
Right.
And shad oriented jigs. My jigs are,
Okay.
are white ones, gray ones, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So let's break it down just a little bit. So a bluegill style jig would be the blue, maybe not necessarily orange, blue, brown, yeah.
Browns, blues, a little bit of orange in it. Something looks like his belly. Yellowy colors.
Yellow,
There's a lot
yellow's
of there's a
good.
lot of yellow on
Man,
bluegills.
black and yellow was big back in the 80s.
And-
It was huge.
and
Not
yellow-
chartreuse. Yellow, like
yellow
banana
is,
yellow.
And
Yeah.
yellow is not appealing to the fishermen, so they don't sell it.
Right.
Simple as that. You don't have one in your store.
No,
But-
I do not. Yeah, I do not. Yeah.
But you look at some of our colors, 2 or 3 of our colors that we make in the hammer jig,
Right.
they're pretty yellowy looking, some of them. That's my bluegills. That's what looks like a bluegill to me.
So-
Needs a dark colored back, like a dark green pumpkin back. Then the sides and the main body of it needs to be a lighter color, a slightly lighter color,
All right.
a slighter shade of even green pumpkin. It can be more of a watermelon-y color on the sides, or any amber colors with some green flake in them and stuff.
There you go. Green. Yeah, green.
Greens, more greens,
Glitter.
and
Glitter.
and then down on the belly, it's going to have a very distinct color. I'm always going to put a very distinct color in the belly of my jig. It's going to be a orange, yellow, something pretty bright. If you're colorblind, you're screwed.
One of the guys that graduated
You're
with
just going to
colorblind
have
was
to,
like, you're out
you're
of
just,
luck, man.
You're just going to have to rely on one of your friends not to lie to you. And I'm going to tell you right
fish are
now,
not colorblind.
No, yeah. I've heard people say that, it doesn't matter to a fish. Day in, day out, you're right, it does not matter. If it's any shade of green pumpkin, it will catch a bass.
It's about
Okay.
presentation.
It's all about the presentation. When they're biting really, really good, guess what? You're doing the right thing with your bait. You're making it look right. How you're swimming it through the water or whatever you're doing is tricking that fish. Okay? But when fishing's tough, like it is right, kind of this time of the year, it's kind of just getting better and getting started. You got to make your stuff look good. Don't skimp on just ripping a jig out of the package and stringing a trailer on it, throwing it in the lake. Make it look right. Make it look good.
All right, so we've discussed the bluegill.
Yep.
Now let's move to shad. Shad's very simple.
Very simple.
It's black, white, and silver.
Yep.
There's no more variation than a jig you can do.
The only thing I do on my shad color jigs depends on the clarity of the water. The clearer the water, the clearer my skirt colors are going to be.
You ever put chartreuse in a shad swim bait?
Just a little tiny bit, and that's because they have that yellow stripe.
Yep.
What's the super color?
Sexy shad.
Sexy shad.
Blue,
Sexy
white,
shad.
chartreuse, silver.
Sexy shad has that little dab of chartreuse, because if you look at a shad really close and you hold him up, you can't just look at him. You look at him in the water, he looks white with a black back. That's it. You hold him out of the water and you let that sun kind of glisten on him, and you can see that very distinct little yellow line that goes down his side. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine that bass has looked at so many that he sees him kick up in the sun every now and then, and he sees that little, that little yellow line. And the thing of it is, on any given day, you can strap on a white one and go out there and throw it and still catch that same fish. Mm-hmm. When they're not biting, guess what? Take an extra minute, make your stuff look good. That's always that's Guido. That's Guido Hibden 100% right there. That is the most. My dad would tell you right up front, on any given day, you can chunk a pine cone out there and want to bite it.
Right.
Okay? It's the days when they're not biting, you better get your stuff looking right.
Yep, and
make it look good.
We will have a conversation on that. But the one thing that your dad had told me once, I had a spinnerbait. It was a sexy shad spinnerbait, and he's like, "You dumbass!" He said, "You got so much upside down." And I'm like, "What do you mean upside down? Spinnerbait upside down?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "What color is a fish's stomach?" He said, do you have any idea what they are? And I said, yeah, it's white. And he's like, then why is your skirt turned around? And I thought about it.
Why is your dark color down?
He's like, yeah, if you buy a spinnerbait or a jig off the shelf and it's got a dark side and a light side, no matter what the color is, you twist that so when it's in the water, the white side is down to emulate the white belly of a fish. He's like, come on, man. He said, everybody knows that. And I'm like, well, I didn't. I was like, damn, I didn't know that.
You can buy the most expensive chatterbait, one of your favorites.
That's right.
You can buy the most expensive chatterbait that you can buy. Now, this thing costs $18
for a jackhammer.
For a jackhammer bait, and the freaking skirt's on upside down.
Yeah.
You can look at it and you're like, $18, and they couldn't put the skirt on it right.
It's just a quarter turn.
All you got to do is turn it over, and then, perfect now.
So with that being said, no matter what trailer you put on it, if you put a trailer on it, if you get a two-tone trailer, the light side matches up with the light side of the skirt. So it looks like a minnow. What a bait.
What does a 10-inch worm resemble?
That was last week. You're out.
It's kind of...
That's what happens when we get new people in here. They're asking questions we've talked about forever.
A 10-inch worm is just something that you're putting it right in where he lives. It's a swimming fish. It's like a swimming fish. That ribbon tail, as it swims, that's just a slow-moving fish.
It could be a lizard.
If it's a hooktail worm.
It could be a bluegill.
If it's a hooktail worm, one that's got a real sharp tail, that's some bucks in a hurry. Think about that when you're using it. If you're throwing a hooktail worm, you better be pitching that dude in there and working him out of there pretty quick. If you're throwing a ribbon tail, that's a slow-moving deal. You throw that out there and you just let it slither down there to the bottom because it looks like he's slowly swimming to the bottom. You have to think about what you're using, what you're chunking in the lake. Think about what it does and how it looks, okay?
It's not chunking.
One of my favorite worms to put on the back of a spinnerbait is a ringworm, a little hooktail ringworm. For one reason.
But like a 3, 4, 5 inch.
Yeah, a little one.
Yeah, a little ringworm. Not a 10-inch.
Little tiny ringworm.
Got to get it clear
because you think about when you're pulling a spinnerbait along. Now, this is just a for instance. When they're just smashing it and they're just crushing it, I mean, you wind it along and they try to take the rod out of your hand. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Throw a white one out there and catch them. Okay? And if you don't believe that, you throw a chartreuse one out there and still catch them because they're eaten, okay? But when you're winding it along real easy and you feel your blade stop moving, he chased it. He chased it down, and just as he was fixing to bite it, that's the vision he's looking at. He's coming up behind it, okay? How many spinnerbait trailers do you have in your boat that have a black tail? Not a one.
0.
You know why? They don't sell them. But it's not rocket science. You take this Sharpie right here, I can make it look perfect. I put my little white kicker tail on there, and the last thing I do is I paint the little tail, the end of the tail, black. Because it's paddling along, that's the last thing that bass sees before he swims over top of it. If he's hitting it head first, he's crushing it, okay? If he hits it from the head or the sides and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. I don't care what color you throw. But if he's pursuing it to eat it, the last thing he sees is that little tail going right in his face. And if it's a solid white tail on the back of that shad, guess what? Some of those fish are going to swim up there and say, no, that's not right. He's a professional. He's a big guy. The ones you want to catch are those big ones. You have to fool that one. He's not stupid. So make it look right. Make your trailers look right. Same way with your jigs and stuff like that. If I'm throwing a bluegill-oriented bait of any kind, no matter what my jig is, no matter what my trailer is, something on the end of that's going to have chartreuse on it. Because the last thing you see when a bluegill's swimming through, don't take my word for it, walk down to the boat dock, watch a bluegill. The last thing you see is that little bright chartreuse tail paddling along behind him. Okay? A bluegill, 99% of the time, is not an ambush. He finally decides, I'm going to get me one of them big old bluegill today. And he slips up behind it, swims over and eats it. Okay? Think about what's the last thing he sees, that little chartreuse tail. Mm-hmm. Any given day, you could still catch it on something green pumpkin. Mm-hmm. He thinks, oh, well, that's a bluegill. But if he's going to pursue it and eat it, make it look right. Because he's got time to think about it then. How many times have you been out there throwing a fluke style bait or something like that, and you see one come up right with it? Oh, and you just, oh my gosh, there he is. But he doesn't get it. Guess what? He changed his mind at the last second. From a distance, it looked like a shad. But when he ran up there to it, there was something wasn't quite right about it. I've only got to see that one time.
What?
And I bring my bait in, and I start coloring on it. I put a good little dark tail on it. If it's a shad, I put a little dark tail on it. I put me a set of eyeballs on it. They make paint for this stuff. It's not like I'm telling you nothing you can't do.
Or markers.
Or markers. They make garlic markers. Who came up with the idea that bass are Italians? I have no idea. But for some reason they think garlic's great, you know.
Well, there's licorice.
There's markers, there's paints, everything. Same way with a bluegill oriented fluke type deal. If I'm throwing a watermelon fluke out there working along and one swims up under it and doesn't take it, I do not make another cast. I bring it in, put a little chartreuse on the tail. I put me a set of little yellow eyeballs on him with, little black pupils. Now it's a bluegill. It looks good. The last thing I do is take a little orange on the belly. Now it's a bluegill.
Yeah. Have you seen that make a difference?
Oh, thousands of times.
One of the guys in the crowd says,
yes,
thousands
of times.
Did you see that made the difference? Yes.
Absolutely. And it's almost always on those days that fishing sucks.
Yeah.
When the fish are biting, I'm not going to teach you guys anything. You already know how to catch them when they're biting. And that sounds kind of weird. That's kind of a catch-22. Yeah, everybody knows how to catch them when they're biting. Yes, they do. It's the days that they're not biting that I take over. Now I win the tournament, and stuff like that. And it's nothing more than I make my stuff look right to the fish. When he swims up to it, it's one of my favorite things to do in a seminar. And I relate it to food. When I sit down to a plate of food, I'm a professional. I mean, my stuff looks good. When I look down at that plate, everybody in the room is going to want a bite of that. Okay, that's just the way it is. When I sit down to a plate of food and I think, wait a minute, something's not right. I don't want to get gross, but I don't know if I think there's a hair in that or something. Or I think, wait a minute, what's the matter with that? You don't just stick your fork on it and eat it. It gave you pause not to tie into it. Okay? What do you think you're doing with your bait? Your bait, as it's swimming along, it's something he wants to eat. If he swims up there and gets a good close look at it, don't give him no reason not to go ahead and take it. And you have the means, okay? Just don't be lazy, I spend a lot of time in Hobby Lobby. I buy a lot of fingernail polish, okay?
Dude,
all of my swimming jigs have little blue eyes. Do your swim jigs have eyes on them?
The beads at Hobby
He's
Lobby.
He's got to see where he's going. I mean, come on. What?
The beads.
The beads
at Hobby Lobby. You can buy
Absolutely.
Beads. When you're doing spinner baits, that's the deal.
There's just so many ways.
Shameless plug. Hey, shameless plug. Hobby Lobby. You'd be surprised at the amount of fishing tackle you can make when you're manufacturing your own baits there.
I have a Hobby Lobby card. I mean, I'm sorry, but
you're a rewards member.
I borrowed my wife's car the other day to go to Dollar General to buy fingernail polish. I get home and she says,
I can only imagine how that looked.
She says, do you think if I open up my back hatch that I can get a couple of tuba sixes in there? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you can, honey. And I just came back from the store getting fingernail polish. Mm-hmm. So there's something not right about this.
She's buying lumber and you're buying fingernail polish.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice.
Well,
I'm trying to break down in my mind like a comparison, because you said over and over again, I am a professional eater. So what's your favorite meal?
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken. So I know you did not make that. You don't cook fried chicken.
Oh, I can.
But you didn't.
Kidding me? You didn't get this size.
You said bass are lazy.
I was just like you. I was single for a year or two. I don't like KFC that good.
Yep. Bass are lazy.
Yes.
They like an easy meal. Amy cooks her ass off for you. You get an easy meal. So
And I do some really nice stuff for her too. Don't get me wrong.
I'm just saying.
She's worth every penny.
I'm trying to make a parallel here.
Okay.
So if a bass is the big bass, the residential bass is lazy and he likes the easy meal. And so if you're going to really break it down, you're going to look to where the crawdads reside, where the bluegill reside, and where the shad blow in.
Where the shad can come.
And that's where you're going to find where a bass resides, the big bass.
The most
you got to
food,
find the trifecta.
you gotta have a buffet.
Yeah.
He's got to have it where he's got everything at his disposal.
This is the best tip of the week we could give.
Oh, absolutely.
You can go out and you can catch Kentuckies when the wind blows into Main Lake Point.
Yep.
You can throw your chatterbait and catch some fish. You can find a good 2-pounder in the back of the magic spot where there's good water inflow and there's a couple laydowns and it just works just right. And you can find fish where the crawdads reside. But if you want to find the big fish, you got to find where all three reside.
Yep, you got to kind of have all of them, And
there's no answer for that, by the way.
No, not really.
You got to go out and spend some time on the water and find that spot and figure out where all three.
You can only narrow it down as much as you possibly can, and that's what we do. That's what we think about.
Possible?
Well, you just got to think about it a little bit. You got to think about it. Think about what that fish wants. The thing about what we have here on Lake of the Ozarks, docks. Those docks. There's always bluegill around them docks. And that's why here within the next few weeks, well, actually, I guess it's already started because less than one Saturday, it's already started, so they spend a lot of time around those docks. And you're going to have somebody, before I finish this sentence, say, well, what makes a good dock? Mm-hmm. They're all good docks.
Docks have structure under them.
Because they all create shade, but you think about what makes the perfect dock. Perfect dock, just like I said, if it's got a place where some breeze can hit it all the time, a little bit of wind hit it, pretty dominantly.
Okay.
Where you got some good deep water close.
I mean, a really good thought. Stop.
Gotcha.
All right. So, bluegill. You're going down the dock and you see bluegill suspended around the foam of the dock.
Yep.
They're not doing anything. They're just kind of hanging out. They're all cool. Save that thought. Now, we have heard that shad, if they're swimming in a circle really tight, and they're swimming in that circle, what I've always heard was they're rallying, they're like circling the wagons because there's game fish in the area, they're going to eat them. So they try to make themselves bigger by swimming in a circle to push it away like you're one big fish. What do you look for in bluegill or brim or that it's an indicator that there might be bigger fish there? Is there any, or is there one?
Not really a good one.
Does that make sense what I asked? Yeah.
There's a couple of different species of bluegill that I believe in. The ones that are on bluffy rock are a little black looking, really so dark.
Yep. I call those greenies.
Yeah, really dark.
Yep.
He's got little turquoise lines that go down his side.
More like green sunfish. Looks like a bass, but
he looks like a little miniature bass in his stature.
Keep talking.
But he's super dark. I mean, he's black kind of on the back, some dark green on the sides, and he's got them little turquoise lines that go through him. He lives on bluffy places. Bluff rock, anywhere you get around big giant rock, that's the bluegill that lives there. You get around boat docks that are on flatter banks, now you're dealing with sunfish. A lot of sunfish. Even what we call pumpkin seeds, that are bright orange and stuff like that. But a lot of them are just an old pale green sides, dark green back, kind of pale greeny, yellowy sides, and kind of a light colored, creamy orange belly. That's probably the bulk of them that live around boat docks. And so therefore, I keep on two basic color jigs for the most part. One imitates the bluegill that there's a ton of, those light kind of pale green ones with the yellowy sides. And then the other one I keep on is a little very dark green pumpkin one with a light belly. And that's my favorite color, one of my favorite colors that I throw a lot. But I do mix those two up this time of the year. You know, if I get on some rocky stuff, I'm going to go to that little dark colored one. That's the one I'm going to predominantly be throwing in there. When I get around flatter banks, back in creeks, stuff like that don't have that kind of structure, then I'm going to throw just the basic bluegill colors. You know.
But I've seen both where, like my dad's dock, you know, he's a river guy, but he has chunky style rock behind his dock, but I have green sunfish and the others, you know, so it's like a hodgepodge of all those bluegill there.
But if
it makes it very confusing for me.
But if you moved 100 yards to the left of your dad's boat dock where that little strip of bluff
right
goes into the next cove,
Yep.
you won't catch anything but them little black ones.
That's right.
That's the only one you'll catch, the greenies. Yeah.
I call them greenies.
And those, I know this has nothing to do with it, but that's a flathead catfish's favorite meal.
Let's do catfish next week.
Yeah.
I'd love to do catfish. You know,
But that's the only real variations that I make on my jigs. My jigs got a lot of blue and purple in them too, you know, because every now and then you'll catch one of them little bluegill that you hold him up in the sun. That's the only way you can really tell what a color of the fish that swims in the water is. Okay, pull him out of the water, look at him, hold him up in the sun, turn him, twist him over, and a lot of a crappie is beautiful. A crappie's got all kinds of purple, lots of purple in him, you know, and really to say that I've ever seen a good crappie mimic in any hard bait, no, not really, not really. Even that guy that made those shrink wraps that go on them.
Oh, crank wraps.
Crank wraps.
There's crank wraps.
There's a couple of them that are crappie.
Castaic made a good one. Bandit has a crappie crankbait. Sixth Sense has a good screen print.
And I can't say that it's a huge forage for the fish, but they eat the hell out of crappie. I mean, they eat them just like they do bluegill. It's a good hearty meal.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to do a catfish show. We're gonna talk about crappie and catfish.
The only turd in the punch bowl is a gizzard shad. Okay, a gizzard shad
is
just
or threadfin?
A gizzard, the big ones. The big one.
How many species are in Lake of the Ozarks?
2.
You think they're both here?
Yeah,
I've heard the conservation department says only one.
Say they're gizzards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're full of crap. There's as many threadfin. There's threadfins in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't care which biologist you bring. I don't care what he says.
Yeah.
I know. I've seen them.
You know,
I've caught them in a shad net. How about that?
Have you guys ever heard of a goldeneye? Yep, they're in this lake too.
Yep.
Yep, upriver. That's a
herring.
It's a herring.
It's a sawtooth herring is what it is.
And they're freshwater. And I had a guy brought one in the store, and he said, "What is this?" I said, "Hell, I don't know."
You'll catch one every now and then on spinnerbait.
Yeah. They're a toothy shad.
Big enough to catch them?
Oh yeah, 2-3 pounds. Yeah.
2 little teeth on the bottom.
Yep. A toothy shad, basically.
Yeah.
With this golden color. Yeah.
Like he's got a pair of fangs.
Yeah.
But we're getting way off track.
Yeah, no, totally. But that's fun of it all. So
there's lots of food. That's the thing in Lake of the Ozarks. Lots and lots of food. You just have to be in areas where they have access to all of them, for the most part. I didn't get this big by just eating fried chicken. That's a big problem, but still,
I guess my point is
I could eat one baked sometime, but I just don't like it as well.
To rewind back when I said you're a professional eater and Amy takes care of you, if you're sitting at the table and somebody's providing you with food, you're going to stay there because that food is always being provided to you.
Yep.
So as a fisherman, if you can find an area that where the food is always provided to them, that you're going to have much more success than a guy like me, who is half your size, who has to haul ass and run around everywhere trying to find a meal.
I don't.
Which I kind of prefer.
Yeah, and the thing of it is,
I like the working class fishermen.
The shad,
the working class bass.
The shad,
the blue collar bass that catches 11 pounds. That's me.
Whether we want to believe it or not, the shad do lead everything around by the nose. Mm-hmm. Even the big ones, somewhat. They do lead the big ones around too. But I do think that you can have some bass that just finally say, "No, I'm good. I'll just eat a bluegill once a day and I'm happy." and they do.
Well, when I guess,
And that's the bass that after I got my 1098 in the boat off the first spot that we fished, that's the bass I go and chase for the rest of the day. I go and fish for one that nobody else is throwing at, that no easy angler is going to catch.
Right.
You know, because
the term is called foundered.
yeah,
In the farming world, it's called foundered.
you're just not gonna.
A bass will eat and eat and eat until he's full.
Yep,
And then he's going to wait a few days and he's going to eat again.
it's gonna hang out. You know.
You know,
And I go and fish. I go and fish for him where he hangs out, and I put a bait in there that surprises him. You know, that he can't turn down. You know, we throw a lot of baits that are not big and bulky and gigantic like a lot of people think. I throw something in there most times that if he gets in front of him, he won't turn it down. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't. I throw some big baits. I will admit I do throw some big baits. And I do fish for bigger fish a lot of times, but there's a lot of times I fish for bigger fish with little baits because I'm going to pitch him something in there that he's not going to turn down. He's going to eat it when it comes in front of him. Yeah. So, you know, you can keep that in mind when you're out there. We haven't got somebody that's got a good question, do we? No,
we're good.
No, okay.
Nope, let's have it.
Ask away.
A question from the crowd says,
What causes them to suspend?
"What causes a bass to suspend?"
Yes, is it the thermocline?
Is
You
it
want
the
that?
thermocline? No.
Fire away.
I don't think it's thermocline. I think that it's based on water temperature. Number one, I think that bass typically suspend. I don't know if I know that answer.
Barometric pressure.
Pressure.
It's the hardest time to catch one.
Yep.
Barometric pressure is
we've
90% of it.
We've got a bass who lays in the tank, and we see him on the bottom, and we'll throw minnows in every morning. If he doesn't eat it, he's not feeding, but you'll see him suspend it up a little bit in the tank, and he eats a little more. That's the only thing I can gauge.
I've always thought it had to do a lot with the pressure. Fish have a bladder, and the barometric pressure plays a big part in that. Bright blue, calm days don't necessarily mean that it's a bad pressure day. Okay, that's a big misconception. It's kind of where the weather patterns are moving. Okay, and when I say that, we're fixing to dive in a rabbit hole that you can't come out of. All right, weather changes make a difference. Any kind of weather change. This little cool front that we've had just yesterday that came in. Yep. That's a major change. Mm-hmm. Okay, those fish knew that was coming. Yep. And yesterday, I guarantee you, anybody fishing here yesterday?
Yeah.
It was probably good.
It was.
Yesterday was good.
Just because it was coming.
It was coming. The weather change was coming. The pressure was going down. So their bladders, when the pressure gets real high, like 2 days after a cold front, 2 days from now, you don't want to be out there, okay? Because it's going to suck. Because the barometric pressure is going to be about as high as it ever gets. And what happens with that barometric pressure, that bladder, it swells them up. It's just like you or me with a bellyache. And then you're going to have to go exactly where that fish lives. Because she don't feel like getting out and eating. She's not going to get out and just roam around feeding on those high pressure days. She's going to stand somewhere, and you're going to have to take your lure, put it right in front of her face, and she's going to eat it because she's got no choice. Oh, it's right here, and she bites it out of instinct or something like that. It's not just going to be, okay, I'm going to go throw a worm on points. If you do, you're going to fail miserably because it's going to be hard. Okay, it's going to be super, super hard. Do I let that affect the way I fish? A little bit. A little bit. If I know it's going to be a super high pressure day, and I pay attention. I pay attention to those little fronts and cold fronts and warming trends and stuff like that. In the springtime, there's nothing better than a little warming trend. A little warming trend starts coming in. Oh, get after it because they're going to bite for a couple days. As soon as it goes away, though, then it's going to start the other direction.
Man, he has said so many things that we need to really break down. And that's
sure,
get there.
Yeah, we could tell it. We could do a
talk
whole
about
show on.
When you talk about a warming trend in the spring, you're talking about rocks warming up,
yes.
Shallow water fish, crawdads coming out.
But it's a change.
Yeah, it's a change.
Everybody thinks that On any given day, bass fishing is easy. It's not hard. You go out there, you chunk something that they like to eat in the lake.
It's not rocket science, right?
It's not rocket science at all. But it can be hard if you let it be, And we, for the most part, we show up at a lake. I don't have the great fortune of just going fishing. Most of the time when I show up, I got to go. Yeah. We got a week to go. You got 3 days to find them, and then you got 3 days to make it happen in the tournament. So you're going no matter what. I let those pressure systems kind of lead me on how I'm going to fish. If it's a good low pressure coming in, by God, I'm going to shuck and jive. I'm going to move. I'm going to do a lot of moving baits. I'm going to fish fast. I'm going to cover a lot of water. I'm going to really shit and get down the bank. Okay? And that's what you have to do. Yeah. And I'm going to put my bait in as front of as many active fish as I can. If I know, first day of the tournament, second day after a cold front, guess what? I'm going to be a casting mother on that day. I'm going to put my bait where I know that fish is hiding, and I'm going to put it in there multiple times. It's not like I'm just going to make a good cast every now and then. Every cast I make is going to be tucked in there where I know that big one is sitting there all sold up, not biting. And does that make a difference? If you're only going to get 4 or 5 bites, if you're putting your bait in the right place every time you do it, your odds go up. That's all that a bass fisherman, a pro angler is. He's kind of a card counter. He's putting as many things in his pack of tricks that he can, and he's trying to use them in an 8-hour day. I've said it a million times on every time I ever give a seminar. I don't do anything different than you guys do. I just do it a lot faster. And that's nothing more than I've been doing this my whole life. This is what I do. I chase bass, and do I chase crappie? Yes, I do. Do I, I don't chase crappie. I kill crappie.
Yep, there's a difference.
And there is a
bass
difference.
for money, crappie for food.
Crappie's
big
for food.
Difference.
Yeah, that's right. And you've seen the size of me. You know how that works. You've seen the size of all my kids. You think it didn't take a couple $100 a month to feed them?
Oh, my God.
But it's one of those deals. That's the only thing that we do as professional bass fishermen is we do it faster. We change faster. Mm-hmm. We make decisions faster. But we also use everything that's given to us. Mm-hmm. Larry Nixon, I'll give you a good example. I won a tournament here in 06 fishing 40 foot deep. Larry Nixon had a good first day. He had 16 pounds the first day. I came back into the glaze. Now, I had 23 pounds. But when I came back into the glaze, I called 2 big ones 10 minutes before I had to weigh in. I mean, a couple of 5-pounders. I'm like, holy crap, look at this, And I thought, I am. And that's when I figured out, okay, I'm on them. Now I know exactly what to do. No matter where I'm at on the lake, I'm going to catch them. I came in and I made a huge mistake. And I did not fizz those 2 fish. I caught them 40 foot deep. You put them in the bag, they're still good and alive. I caught them 10 minutes before I came in. You put them in the bag, all the rest of them are standing perfectly upright.
Now,
and
fizzing,
here's these 2 upside down.
Right now, fizzing, just so you know, is when a bladder of a fish overinflates. You have to take a needle.
You bring them up.
Because you caught them below the thermocline.
Yeah. Well, not below the thermocline. Just deep.
Just deep. Yeah, where their bladder overinflates and bring them up.
Yes, you bring them up. It's the
basically
bends.
the bends, like what a scuba diver.
And it does not hurt them to bleed them.
Right.
They do it everywhere.
Right.
But you bleed them, and that allows them to upright themselves. If you don't bleed them, well, there's a million different ways to bleed one.
Right. So you made a mistake.
Whole other story.
So you didn't relieve the valves.
I did not relieve those fish. Did they before they turned them loose? Absolutely. Somebody at the weigh-in trailer fizzed those fish before they got turned back into Lake of the Ozarks. But I didn't do it before I put them in a bag. I was excited. I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, I went from having 18 pounds to 23.
Yep. They're alive.
In 2
they're
casts.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly alive. I walk up there. Larry Nixon walks up right behind me. And he says, wow, I don't guess I'm fishing deep enough. Guess what? He had 3 days left. Guess who finished second? He did. Did he know to fish that deep? Not before after the first day weigh-in. After the first day weigh-in, he's seen it. That's the thing. We just pick up that stuff. We look at it and like, now I got an idea now, and that's just how we think. We think quicker at all those little things. When I tell you the perfect fishing spot has everything to involve, now that I have pointed that out to you, now you will pull into a cove the next time you go on the water. Every one of you, even her, she's been knitting since she got here. And the next time she goes, she'll say, right over there's a good spot. And her husband's going to go, by God, it is. That is. That's got everything right there. And now that I've told you this, that thought process will start helping you pick out those little spots where a big one always lives and stuff like that. Fishing, like I say, it's very common sense. It's not hard, but it's also very in-depth if you let it be, But if you want to just go out there, throw a green pumpkin jig in the water and catch a bass, yep, you can do that too. You can do that too. And on any given day, you might catch more than me. Any given day. Not every day. No, not every day. I'm going to peel your ass every day. When it comes to 6 out of the 7 days, oh yeah, you're in trouble. But any given day, any one of you can catch them better than I do. I mean, it happens. You get fortunate, you throw it in front of the right bass, you get on a roll, you think, oh, they're only on this kind of dock. And sometimes they are, But I'm going to say they're on that kind of dock because it's sitting on a point, there's current flowing by it, and it's on a rocky bank. I'm going to take it 3 more links, and I'm not going to pull in and fish 20 docks without a bite. Every dock I pull in on, I'm going to catch one off of it. And it's because I break it down like that. Everybody can. It's not like you can't do it. People out there, I mean, there's lots of people that are better fishermen than I am. Okay? There's nobody a better caster than me. I'll tell you that right up front. They ain't made that guy yet. My son's the closest one, and I still don't think he can cast as good as I can. But yeah, well, he thinks he can, but he thinks he can, but but that's what I do. That's what I want to do. And my dad passed away right at 6 years ago. Best caster I was ever in the boat with, hands down. Left-handed, right-handed, didn't make any difference. And it's because of that way of thinking. The way we think about it is we catch a fish that's not eaten. We catch a fish that's hiding. And not every Tom, Dick, and Harry does that. Most of us fish for the ones that are biting. I fish for the one that ain't biting, a lot of times. And I let the day that I'm out there on the water dictate what I'm going to do. If I go out there and they're biting, I'm no different than anybody else. I just soon sling out in the open as anybody else, throw a spinner bait or a crankbait. No, not a crankbait. I don't like treble hooks. Treble hooks stick you in the finger, and I don't like that. But I'm no different than any other bass fisherman. When it's easy, shoot, that's why I want to catch them too. You got to be doing what the fish are biting on. But when they're not biting, that's when you got to take your time. Take your time, think it through. Think through what's going on. And like I say, never let a big one get by you that you don't use it properly. You catch a 5-pounder, stop, take a minute. Every trolling motor made that you can buy right now has got spot lock on it. If my dad would have had spot lock, we would have never beat him. Because sometimes his boat would drift away from where he actually caught it. Now, most of the time, he would go right back and check it all out. But if he had spot lock where when he set the hook, he's like, oh, there's a big one. If he'd had spot lock, we'd have never beat him. Because, he really went back and he broke down everything about what was going on right there. And the worst thing that can happen in a bass tournament is let me catch a 5-pounder in the first hour. I catch a 5-pounder in the first hour, oh, you're in bad shape. It's a bad deal. I'm fixing to whack them. And it's nothing more than I just think. Most people, wow, I didn't think I'd catch a big one. Why'd you go out? If I didn't think I was going to catch all big ones, why would you go? That's a waste of time. Somebody's going to catch all big ones. You know, when I go out on Lake of the Ozarks, Lawson's in the tournament. Guess what? He's thinking about catching all big ones. You know, he's not thinking about catching 1098. He's not thinking about that. He's not thinking about that ever.
Damn.
That never crosses his mind. And I have fished that away I have fished that away my whole career, and that's all over the planet. There's been many times that I have screwed off really good tournaments by not going and catching another 2-pounder. But my dad showed me many years ago. He said, which would you rather see? When you see a guy stand up there and he holds that bag up and it's got 10 pounds of 1098 in it, you know, what do you think about them? Or do you see a guy that holds up 2 that weighs 11 pounds? That's the guy you watch, you know. You're like, wow, he had a pair of giants, you know. That's just the way I kind of focus, you know. That's, you know.
I don't even know if I feel offended right now or.
You shouldn't be.
Yeah,
You shouldn't
like,
be. You're a
damn,
little bitty.
dude.
You're a little bitty guy. You don't know
Damn,
how to
man.
eat properly. I'm a great
Oh my
big.
God.
I'm a great big guy. I know how to eat. You know, you just don't.
Hey,
Yeah, of course.
But it's all in what you want to do and what you want to get out of it. You know, I'm no different than anybody else. I go out there some days and I feel bad. I feel bad, and if I'm just going through the motions, shouldn't be out there. You know, you ought to go play golf. Go sit and watch TV. Watch the
don't
Olympics.
say golf.
Yeah, no, don't play golf. No, golf takes a lot of focus.
No,
That,
yeah,
that offends golfers.
that's right.
And they get butt hurt real easy.
Yeah,
I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
I offend them every year at the Missouri Invitational.
Whew.
But, you know, it's whatever you want out of it. You know, I enjoy fishing, period. There's nothing I like more than to go out on a point and catch white bass. I love doing that. You know, that's awesome. And, you know, I love to go catch an old crappie, you know, or go sit and watch my float jugs pop up, you know, and catch a catfish every now and then. But when I'm bass fishing, I'm you know, it's like Ricky Klum. It's a different animal. There, you just think different, you know, and I don't like fishing bass tournaments for fun, you know, simple as that. I could be fishing 3 a week just like Lawson does. Guess what? I don't hate them that bad. They're not doing what I want to do right now, so I'm not going to go do that. It's no fun. I'm going to wait till they're doing what I want to do, and then I'm going to go win. You know, and that's because winning's a big part of it. You know, that's simple as that. Could, you know, that's the first thing Lawson told me the other day. Well, sure, I'm glad you didn't fish. There's a reason for that. how he caught him, he knows. I'd have been hard on him too, you know, but you know, it's just one of those deals. You got to fish how you want to fish. You got to do your own deal. And you got to take your time and think about things, you know, like I say, your thought process can be as big as you want it to be, you know, and when I say that, you know, there's guys in here that don't give a rat's ass about catching one, right? But most of you,
Not this group.
Most of you in this room came to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've told you how I do it. Can you do that? Do you have that degree of focus? Some of you might. Some of you might. But the detail and the focus and when you catch one and stuff like that, that all comes into play. It all makes a huge difference on how many you have in the boat at the end of the day. You know, and another thing, I'm not afraid to not catch them. If I don't catch them, you realize how many tournaments I've been in my lifetime that I didn't catch them? A whole lot more than I did, I can tell you that. But it's one of those deals. I enjoy catching big ones. I enjoy fishing for big ones. I feel like it's just like hunting a big deer. You know, you got deer hunters that hunt for large horned animals. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy. I just want to eat the backstraps out of them sons of guns. And I want to eat as many of them as I can find. You know, that's just the way it is. So, you know, I got bad news for you. Bambi walks up first. Bambi dies. I don't care if the backstraps weigh 10 pounds or 30 pounds. I mean, they all taste the same. But when I'm bass fishing, no, I want big ones. And that's what I want to chase. You know, last year in the Missouri Invitational here in November, I sucked. I caught two. That was it. They weren't doing what I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to go fish for a limit of fish every day. Lawson did pretty good. Payton did all right. A lot of guys, caught 10, 12-pound stringers every day and did it. And I'm like, who cares about that? Nobody wants to see that on stage. Yep, they made a check. I did not. All right. And guess what? That's the older you get and the more you do it like I have, the more getting paid to leave is not as big a deal. Okay. But I enjoy doing it.
Are you done?
I am. I can be.
This is
What
like
do you
the
want to talk
first.
about?
This is like the first week. No, we've ran way over.
Oh, I did not.
You have
know
been
that.
on. You have been on the rampage tonight.
Was it good though? Everybody
Oh
like it?
yeah,
I mean,
it was totally cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it was totally cool. Yeah, totally cool.
Don't clap. I don't want to hear it.
So
Don't.
just so everybody knows, there was a seat on the left. My goal tonight was to bring Ron up. I was going to bring you up, Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I really was. We're going to bring him up next time.
Sorry, Ron. I did
No,
not know
that's totally
that.
cool.
He should have helped me with the plan.
We didn't talk about shameless plug. We didn't talk about industry news. We didn't talk about anything. You were like amped up. Like, dude,
Shameless plug. Get it.
I don't have one.
You don't have one.
No,
Come on.
no.
I tell you what. I got a shameless plug.
Fire away, man.
I had a.
Damn.
I got a brand new battery that I just put in my boat, and that was bad. Guess what? It happens. It happens. Osage Outdoors got me another battery. I get to go fishing tomorrow if I want to.
That's Pro Guide.
That's a good thing to have.
I'm wearing the shirt tonight. Check it out.
That's right.
It wasn't intentional, but Pro Guide batteries, they're a good company.
And
The batteries are good. And yes, you can go to Walmart. You can buy Eurostart for
out of all the stuff
$130.
that you have in your boat, get a battery in your boat that you can swap out. Okay, because I don't care if they're brand new; they can be bad.
That's right.
You can get bad ones.
Yep.
The beating that bass boats give them, that's hard on batteries. Simple as that. So, that's my shameless plug. Get a set of batteries, but I don't care if you get the cheapest ones you can get. Get them where you can get new ones because you're gonna need new ones. Simple as that. And like I say, I've been using Pro Guides for 5 or 6 years.
Time,
quite a long time for me. So like I say, that's a shameless plug. Get your batteries from somebody where you can get more.
I have none. I just have my closing statement for the night that I always do.
All right, let's hear it.
So when you guys take out tonight, go out and fish on the lake, be careful. Just remember,
Peyton's
green.
calling late.
Oh, Peyton's calling. Answer it.
No.
Yep, the other son's calling.
Yeah.
Just remember, be careful, navigate safely. Be careful of making your left turns. Watch the main lake points when you're around the corner because another boat might be coming around the other corner. Be cautious, be safe, catch fish, have fun. Wear your kill switch, wear your life jackets. And from all of us at Real Unfiltered Talk, we want to thank you for the night. Be careful, catch good fish, and we'll see you next week at 6. How about that?
Thank you.
I'm not doing the poem tonight. Thanks, guys. Be careful tonight. Thank you for watching.